Hello and welcome to another Blue Bear Quilts short video. Do you know the proper way to use a seam ripper? Well, I'm about to show you how. There's several different methods of using a seam ripper. This little tool can be one of our best friends. And the important parts on the seam ripper are right here in the center of like this J. If I turn it around, see it kind of looks like a J. There's a little blade in there and that's what actually does the cutting. And then right here, this little red ball, that's an important part of the seam ripper as well. And then this sharp little point that helps you get underneath the stitches is important. And it's always nice to have a beautiful seam ripper, like this wooden carved one that was made by the husband of one of my students. And if you'd like a seam ripper like this, there are some that are available on our website at www.bluebearquilts.com. So let's get started and I'll show you how to use the seam ripper. So depending on where you're from, you might call this little tool a couple different things. Here in the United States, we call it a seam ripper. And I believe over in England, they call it an unpicker. So one of the methods of getting rid of a seam you don't want is actually unpicking. So I have this fabric here that's left over from a project and I want to be able to use this purple piece of fabric. So I need to unstitch or unpick these pieces off of here in order to be able to use that piece. So in unpicking, you basically take this sharp little tip and stick it underneath the stitches and pick like every third or fourth stitch. And you just pick along like this, picking those stitches out. And then when you've got it, you can go like this. And if you didn't quite get some, you have to come in here in between and pick, and then it just rips like that. So that's one method. Then you also can continue this way by holding the fabrics back and unpicking like this. Taking and holding it back and just coming this direction and making sure that you're going away from the fabric so that you're not going to end up ripping any fabric. But both of those methods take a really long time. So many people are not familiar with this little red ball on the end of your seam ripper. And it comes in very handy for being able to do ripping quickly. So in order to do that, you have to kind of unpick the seam a little bit so that you have access. And then you basically take and put the red ball on the inside of the seam and lay it like that and just go along like this, being careful to not rip your fabric. And you just go right along that, holding it flat next to the mat, sticking the red ball right in here and keeping it nice and flat, and you just rip right along like that and away we go. But see, now notice there I got a little carried away and there I did actually rip the fabric. Luckily it wasn't the piece that I needed. And that just makes this process so much faster by sticking that little red ball in there, and there we go. So remember, this little red ball is your friend when you're seam ripping. So give it a try the next time you need to rip out a seam. And we'll see you next time on another Blue Bear Quilt short video. Bye-bye.